technologies and most of the things what we have seen in our life have been developed and have been invented during the recession. So if I talk about 1920, came out with radio, 50 with TV, and then of course 90s with our phones, and of course 2007 took the whole leap to the way of how we are using our mobile. And then let's not forget 2012 for 15 is the cloud technology era. What we are looking right now is, are we ready to adapt it? And I think people should fall in line to that, because there is no way we can ignore that COVID has taught the world, which has, I would say, it has failed most of our business continuity plan, which we were always making all our life. That okay, if there's a country in problem, we are going to move to a second country or city. I mean, we all became a family of impact this time. But what it taught was that technology is the backbone of how we would, how we would have driven this particular last 6 months, and how we are going to drive our next future, right? I am also not in a favor of calling that that we were in a pre-COVID and post-COVID, because I guess this is going to stay, and this is going to stay for life. Like we had got flus, but yes, the intensity of the flu is going to be reduced, but it's going to be normal for us all the time. So how I feel is, I think it's quite better for us to understand that technology is going to take a leap, and we as human resources and we as people are going to work for the technology. So how I read it, right? In last few decades, the human resources and people, and when I say human resources, I'm talking about human as an employee and not as a department. We have been working by the technologies, right? And actually technologies was been working by us. But this is the time when technology is going to work for us, for all the hard work what we have given to the world in last few decades. And you can imagine that the companies, with a big thank you to people who have developed tools like Zooms and Teams, we would have faltered to a big time, if these things would have not been the way these are. So I'm a big supporter of technology. It's here to stay, and I'm sure that we will have more kind of discussion coming in, but that's what I will stop for now, for you and Sachin to also talk about.
Thank you. This was, I love the point about the BCM planning, and business continuity has really turned on its head. Sachin.
Kate. Kate, right? So, Rohan, I think Sachin has actually given a very good context around how the technology evolution has happened from a workplace perspective, and there has been time which has created that trigger, which has accelerated those changes in the past. And what I'm seeing right now from a people perspective, the workspace perspective, I think there is actually no area which is untouched by technology. And in fact, you are actually you have to accept the fact that you cannot take any initiative without using technology as a backbone. And there's a lot of critical management, whether we're talking about capability development, whether talking about health and wellness of our people, whether we're talking about engagement, whether we're talking about connect. In fact, I would put it's because of change that we saw through this pandemic, that has been brought in. There's rather than it, making people away by spreading the workforce into different smaller cities and hometowns and different countries, I think actually it has brought everyone together, by more communication, care for each other, the leadership connects, the one-to-one connects, conversations opener, the Zooms, the Microsoft Teams, the platforms, and there's a trust in, people. In fact, we were saying that there was a time when the focus was CEO for the organization. He is the charm, and there was a time when in the industry there was a charm for the head of production, and at this point of time, the charm or the focus is with the head of HR, the people practice, the whole team, because that's a team which is helping the whole organization, the leadership, to bring people together, to really drive the change management which is happening, acceptance of the landscape which is changing, and I think it is coming out tremendous. And I really want to congratulate workforce here, the people who are working and how they have adapted to this technology, and definitely the people practice or the HR functions who have and led on this change and build some instrumental programs over this. So that's a small bit around it.
Thank you so much, Sachin. I think very interesting points. So I think from my perspective, to round this off, a couple of things. I think change management is something which I actually haven't seen. I don't think it's been given as much respect lately as it should be, because I think this entire change which is happening, I think HR has a very unique and an important role to partner with business leaders to actually drive significant and intensive change management processes here. This is an entire cultural change. So I don't think I've seen change management pop up as much in literature. So Sachin, thank you for talking about that. Very, very interesting. Couple of additional points. So listen, I love technology and I love a lot of stuff which I'm hearing right now, but I want to offer a caveat. See, COVID was unexpected. So everyone has been scrambling to handle the situation. I think over the next few months, as we get some sort of a semblance of whether a vaccine or whether how the world is going to be, I think we will get to a point of stabilization. Where now, for example, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that I can't stay at home anymore. I'm hearing a lot of people say that I want to get out. I like this thing, but done now. So even from a technology process perspective, I think that there will be some level of stabilization or the pendulum will swing. So I'm very interested in seeing where it stabilizes. So I think that's a caveat I want to offer. I think secondly, in terms of a blended workplace and what I imagine it's going to happen, a couple of things. I think because we don't see people anymore, technology is going to become significantly important in how we measure performance. As a capability development lead for KPMG, I can tell you this, that over the last 7 months, we have turned all of our curriculum to virtual learning. And think about this, right? I've spent my entire life in L&D or leadership development, and we are all classically trained L&D people, right? We are classroom trainers, we have fantastic communication skills, we design workshops, and suddenly you're designing everything for a virtual world where the basic question asked by stakeholders is that this is great, but how do I know that the person is paying attention in Zoom? So, how we are designing assessments. For example, we have been experimenting recently with behavioral economics over the last 6 months because nudge theory or creating a choice architecture so that people are actually doing what you want them to do, even though you're not governing them, has become supremely important. What you're looking for in an LMS has become very important. Measuring transference of learning, because measurement now is very important, right? You're not looking at how many hours a person is sitting in a classroom. You're looking at what they are learning. So the entire definition of what we're expecting people to do has changed, and that's where technology has become significantly important. The other thing which is a mixed bag right now is technology has done significant things in bringing people together.
Yeah.
But I miss my morning coffees in office with my coffee buddy or my coffee buddies. And I've been doing, I just finished a round of skip levels with my team, and my team was talking about technology is great and, sure, but, can you please have a sundowner? Because we need to connect. So, there is that entire piece which has come in. I think the one big significant change which I think organizations are still figuring out is, I think the entire idea of organizational design is going to change. Because organizations are going to be looking at technologies and tools which they were not looking at earlier. So when we talk about automation, fundamentally what you're designing an organization to do is going to change. I'm going to wrap up with a very simple, quick point which I love talking about, and then we're going to move on to our second question. Repetitive tasks, always we knew were going to get automated. But what now is going to happen is because organizations are pushed into digitization and they're looking at digitization seriously, machine learning and AI is also going to get to a point very quickly now where middle level manager jobs, which were primarily resource tracking and work allocation and basic level of direction, a machine can do a much better job through machine learning. They can look at 1,000 points, like a lakh or 2 million points of data and give you better analysis. So the basic question would be that what are we expecting our middle level leadership or managers to do? So a lot of those questions are going to pop up, which is going to bring me to my second question, gents, and I hope you're ready for that, which is, what are the future HR roles and technology?
I think, Rohan, actually, you just gave a example, beautiful example of how AI, machine learning, the whole algorithm in terms of support that can be provided and that can lead to some of the directional work, also automating, and the need for people in the kind of role that they are doing, they have to add more value. So they have to become more like an empathy, focus on empathy, coaching, leadership, and those are the areas. So as I see the future of HR, I think it is coming into a lot of development areas. So we're talking about virtual coach. We're talking about having a sentiment index being pulled from an organization through multiple parameters of how people are engaging on their mailbox, talking to people on Zoom calls, what is their tone of the conversations. I think a lot of, since the kind of data that we're creating is humongous, we're expecting this data to be able to provide some interesting insights and probably interesting support structure. I feel that there would be virtual coaches available for our members to devise their career journey. I think that's one exciting thing that I'm looking at. Maybe that's where the need for the HR or the business, the importance of leadership will change. The shift of the leadership focus on operational efficiency, let's get margin, let's look at that, will become driven by data and automated programs, but the focus will be on people, motivation, driving them, supporting them, empathy, critical thinking. The whole context of the leadership would change, and the interesting aspect around automation, predictive analytics, and giving us a view of future, both individually as well as organizational level, are some of the things that I'm just looking at right now.
Thank you. I love the point about virtual coaches. So that's something which started coming out now. But clearly, Sachin, you're talking about a world where higher order cognitive skills like strategic thinking, intuitive abilities, which are really humanistic in nature, is what will become increasingly valuable. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Sachin M., what's your view?
I think, first of all, thanks for sharing such a wonderful point, because I'm going to take some of these points to talk about more, and that helps me to answer this question also from you, Rohan and Sachin. I think you guys described it again very well around it, right? So let's pick up the strategy pick for a second, right? What I believe is that we need to humanize the AI or machine learning, how I call it as. I also consider that we are very much asset heavy right now in our industry, and we need to be more access heavy rather than asset heavy. And what does mean is that I think AI will free up most of these middle management and the top leadership, like you mentioned, Rohan, for the strategic building. And what was not needed for most of us and to the middle level to spend time on should be created and should be supported by the technology once again, like I said, because technology is going to be for us now and not by us for next, I would say, a kind of decade, right? And how it would come out is that, we need to, like I said, we need to humanize AI. We need to look at, can we free up our transactional, which is part of the journey right now, but also look at one big level to talk about and to have a drastic shift, because I come from a company which is manufacturing and oil and gas and medical equipment and telecom, right? We never imagined in our life that we are going to be working from home when it comes to such a big population. But we did successfully do it, in all the 50, 60 countries we are in. But what we did was that we, instead of understanding our consumers, we started understanding our partners more. And because they are going to be your key partners for your growth, and technology is your partner right now, right? And that's how I call it as. And to also look at, if I consider man and machine, all those Terminator days, talk about a COVID time when we have to to go to a bank. Right now, we all are restricted enough, right? If you go for some of the pilot, pilot things being in Japan, to some extent in US, where you are being introduced in the bank by the robotics, right? It's just a very small example, a kind of gameplay example, but that's something which is a very transactional shift for us. That why do we need people for us to answer our queries, which can be answered by the technology? We need the bank to make sure that they are applying more strategy for our investment and to grow our money and not just solving a transaction. So if I take that sector, if I pick up India as an example, I'm a firm believer that India is the next 10 years, giant. And for that reason, me and my wife will always have a conversation why we should be staying in India and not outside India, because I'm a firm believer, and that's why I ran away from US, from Chevron up ages back, just knowing that what we can see in India, we may not be. And I think that's proving it. And just to share that, I don't know, many of you should be aware of this, that India is in the top 3 countries to adapt the technology in last few years, and we have surpassed China and Japan of the world. Sorry, we surpassed UK, Europe, and Japan of the world. So it's US, China, and then India. So what it just proves is that our human behavior is accepting it, our technology is being accepting it, and like I said, AI is here to humanize us and to make sure that it helps us to strategize more and not spend our time, which can be just be done by anything, which is from machine learning and AI.
Thank you, Sachin. I love the point about humanizing AI. So I'm going to take like a quick 2 minutes to share my views on this. Right, so I spoke, okay. So there are 2 things I want to start off with very quickly. One is, I think the beauty of the internet, if you look at a very simple example of technology, is that it liberated knowledge. Earlier, expertise was considered how many books you had read, how many smart people you knew, and then what was inside your head. So you held knowledge captive. With the internet, knowledge got liberated. The next type of skills, which is now considered in premium, is your ability to analyze knowledge and come up with a synthesized output, which is what machine learning would be able to do very quickly, much better than us. So, as I said earlier, what will become truly valuable is humanistic higher order cognitive skills like intuitive ability, your ability to empathize. But one significant skill which will be very important is your ability, the human ability to actually, especially in the current next couple of years, is your ability to work with different stakeholders and bring those people together, because machine learning can produce outcomes or recommendations that cannot make people believe those outcomes. And the challenge with classical economics is it assumes rational human decision making. Humans are notoriously irrational in their decision making. So abilities to influence outcomes and people is going to be significant. But to wrap this up, I was doing my usual research a couple of weeks back, and HBR came up with a fantastic article on technology and HR jobs. Okay, and they listed 21 jobs which are amazing, but I'm going to mention a few of them which are significantly influenced by technology. One they said was a work from home facilitator. This person's job is to facilitate and create an ecosystem of higher productivity, whether you're on-site or off-site. Second, and this we have already seen examples from, is human bias officer. See, algorithms, as we already know now, carry human bias. So the more you get reliant on data, the challenge is that you're just propounding or you're creating a cycle of the same biases just now feeding into the machine. The future of work leader, which I love, and this one is truly futuristic. Okay, this is human machine teaming manager. This is a job, HR job, where the person is supposed to be working with the machine and humans to ensure that there is seamless partnership between both. So there are 21 jobs they have listed. I picked up some of the ones which really stood out for me. But clearly, the future of HR is going to be impacted significantly by technology. Just to wrap this up, I'm going to tell you a question which was asked by a super smart stakeholder 3 years back, which set me off on a different path as far as a capability lead for my firm was concerned. He asked me, Rohin, what's your biggest competition? I think I tried to give some smart answer, which magnificently failed. And he said, Rohin, your biggest competition is Google. Because anything which you can create and train people on, someone smarter has created a better version of it, which is available on Google. So suddenly your job changed from a content creator to a content curator or a knowledge ecosystem designer. So big changes. So gents, we have 3 minutes left. So I had one last question which I thought we should definitely discuss, and I would love to hear two specific points from each one of you. What do you believe are going to be the significant obstacles or challenges to the future as we look at this entire blend of technology and data and humans coming together? And Sachin M, we'll start with you.
Very clear answer. I think lack of adaptation to this particular thought is going to be the biggest challenge. And why I'm saying it is that even if a great mind like Elon Musk a few years back challenged AI and challenged that it's going to impact the humankind and also the jobs, I think that created a lot of fuss. But I think we are all now falling in place, because we should not just get reflected with such statements, is what I would say, which many of us did, right? And like I said, I'm a very, very firm believer of the data. And what it predicted was that AI and machine learning and technology is going to only impact 5% of our workforce, but it's going to impact the 60% of the work what we do, right? And that's where it shows that we as human are here to stay, but we are here to stay to use the technology for us, is one of my points. And second is that we as our organization need to we have to reorient our strategy to technology, be it any function, right? Gone are the days where we can say that manufacturing, no, we may not be able to do manufacturing without people and all, right? It's all gone the day. If we cannot do it, let's fall in place to start looking at what is going to be the next, manufacturing model next 3 to 5 years. What's going to be a supply chain model in next 3 to 5 years? Those of you who have got the opportunity to visit any of the Amazon's, these hubs, you can easily see that there's no touch of human for a full biggest supply chain, kind of content in the market. So if it can be done by robots and technology, which means that we need to adapt to it. So I think we orient our technology not for a few weeks or months or year, but I think few decades to see how we are going to win it up.
Thank you, Sachin. And Sachin K, what do you think are the two challenges?
Yeah, Robin, in the interest of time, I will be brisk. I think just with the fact that we should not over rely on technology, very, very clear. There is the special thing that human being bring in is that gut feeling, that emotion, that empathy, that sensory things that has to stay with human, and the final decision should be a combination. You use your data, you use the technology, but the decision should be a human decision. I think you need to keep that layer always on top. One more thing that I felt that, this work from home is a fabulous idea and especially helping us stay safe. But it's difficult, it's my personal view. I see it very difficult personally to see it be a full-time way of working. We being human being, the way we are brained, we need to connect with people. We need to socialize. It's the warmth that we get by being with others, the camaraderie that we build, the social bonding, the connect. I think it is so important to build the purpose, the vision. When you say all the companies, people are working towards a purpose, it has to come together when people see each other, the energy and the conversations. I think those are so important, and we need to keep a good combination of flexibility of work from home, work from office, events of getting together, right balance rather than saying take an extreme view. Oh, I think work from home is working well. No need to have offices. Let's sell off all of real estate and let everybody work from home. I think that's something that I feel is people started building on. Oh, let's do that. Maybe it's good for some time. I think we should not too much rely on that as a permanent solution. Just a few thoughts, many more, but yeah.
It just reminded me, and sorry to take few seconds, Rohan, it just reminded me the conversation between James Bond and Q that the James Bond is not for the field to pull the trigger, but actually to see not to pull the trigger. So like what Sachin said, that is it's right that we need that human gut also all the time to make sure that we are doing the right thing, and that's what it comes to the kind of strategy building. We should always be dependent on us, I would say, as human for some more time at least to see.
Oh, absolutely, gents. Very, very interesting points from my perspective. Just adding on to this, we are sailing into uncharted waters. All management leadership models have been always thought through, and they've existed for decades now, keeping in mind a certain type of the world. That world is changing very quickly. So when people talk about the unicorns of the world, that's what they are. They are unicorns of the world. So what is the larger world going to be like? What will work in that world is something which we are still trying to figure out. So that, I think, is an area of concern. I think the second piece for me is that I think this entire technology and digitization piece has some obvious implications which are becoming which are coming up now. One thing which I said was biases in data, of course. Inherent biases in data, that's one. Secondly, now there are going to be aspects and issues around privacy, the workplace norms, what is permissible, what is not permissible. This is bringing this entire work from anywhere, work from home, has blurred the line between work and home, right? So it has created a plethora of other resilience and anxiety issues for people. So a lot of these will emerge, I think, more clearly over the next couple of months, year, as the situation kind of stabilizes and organizations take stock. So yeah, I think the next couple of months are going to be very, very interesting, but we have clearly come to a tipping point where status quo is definitely not an option.